you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. Okay, tough topic. What is unconditional love? That is the lecture today. So if you would just take in a deep breath and gently close your eyes. And ask your teachers and guides to come into your vibration to help you to be able to place the words that are going to be given here today in your heart so that you may be able to use this wisdom in your life to bring harmony and peace to yourself and to those that are around you. In John chapter 13, verse 34, it says, "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another, as I have loved you, that ye also love one another." In Peter chapter 1, verse 22, "Seeing ye have purified your souls in obeying the truth through the Spirit unto unfeigned love of the brethren, see that ye love one another with a pure heart." We were all created in the image of God, yet we look nothing alike. What is the image that we were created in? Love. God is love. We are all love. We are born of love. Take in a deep breath. And gently coming back into the church, open your eyes. Love one another. Simple statement. One of the hardest things you'll ever do. It's hard to love everyone. It's really easy when it's your choice. What does that truly mean? Have you ever taken the time to ponder the real meaning of what love is or what love isn't? Holidays are the perfect example of love being a surface meaning, because we're expected to receive gifts. We're expected to give gifts. Expectation has nothing to do with love, but yet we all place so many expectations on it. You know, I really wanted that nice ring, or I really wanted a big bouquet of flowers. You didn't get that for me. You must not really love me. You forgot my birthday? How could you forget my birthday? If you forgot my birthday, that simply means you don't love me. What does love mean to you? What are you placing the value of love on? Because that's only a surface emotion. What happened to the aspect of love? This has now become expectation, and here's another word for you, obligation. Ask yourself, what am I basing love on? There are many different levels of love, and how we define them varies greatly for each individual. I'm going to give you another big word here, responsibility. You are my responsibility, therefore I love you. What does that have to do with love? A lot of emotions tied into one word. Of course I love you. I go to work. I provide a home for you. I provide food. I show you I love you. Why do I have to tell you it? Isn't that enough? On the other side of the coin, I had to really watch myself because I learned a lot about myself during this lecture. If you ever want to learn a lot about yourself, write a lecture. Seriously, especially a deep one. I take care of the kids. I cook. I clean. I do everything that I'm supposed to do. And you come home and you leave dishes in the sink. You leave your dirty clothes on the floor. That shows me that you don't have respect for me. Do you know what I feel? I feel if you don't respect me, you don't love me. What does that have to do with love? Maybe they're just lazy. Maybe they were just in a hurry. Maybe they were busy. Isn't that shallow? I know we've all been guilty of this at some point in our life. Maybe it's not a spouse. Maybe it's a child. Maybe it's a sister or a brother. Maybe it's a friend. What are you associating the core love with? What somebody does for you or what they don't do for you? Because that's not coming from the heart. If you really loved me, you would be more thoughtful. Really? I don't feel appreciated, therefore I don't feel loved. Does that mean that giving and receiving of understanding and respect is love? Isn't that enough? No, it isn't enough. Because that's not coming from the heart. That's just stuff. It's stuff. Do you notice if the person that you're picking on the most, that irritates you the most, that you feel the less loved by, if something happens to that person and they're laying on a hospital bed or they're sick, that none of that stuff matters anymore? Because it's deeper than that. So pay attention. Pay attention to what you're feeling and what you're placing the values of love on. Are you filling obligations with love in your heart or dread? Here's a big one. Love covers so many things, so many different things. It's so universal. When I talk about dread, it's like, well, I know they expect it of me and I don't really want to do it. I'm dreading it. But I'm going to do it because they expect it. Well, how about you just do it because you know that it'll mean so much to them and it'll bring love to them and you'll get love in return. It's just twisting your thinking a little bit. And if you're really dreading it, then you need to be honest and not do it, because then you're just faking it. And that's another shallow emotion. There's love of life. We love life. Some of us love our work, family, animals, plants. But what usually comes to our mind when we speak about love is relationships. Boys, girls, mothers, daughters, fathers, sons, siblings, friends. Love is certainly an emotion as humans that we call a lot of different emotions by one name. Excuse me, love. The more I think about the relationship type of love, the more I wonder, why is it that when we begin to feel all of these emotions about someone or something else, we start to confuse our thoughts with feelings? Why does it have to get so complicated? Where does love change? Remember in the beginning when it's so beautiful and easy, simple? What happened? What happened to that relationship as it deteriorated? Have you ever taken the time to reflect back on any of your relationships and notice that in the beginning it was simple and easy because it started off as friendship? You share things, you enjoy each other's company. There are no ties, no responsibilities, no expectations, no shoulds, shouldn'ts, or have-tos. You're getting along great. You call when you feel like calling. You get together when you feel like getting together. You're there because you want to be there. And then when things come up and we have to cancel our plans, no one takes it personal. Oh, I understand. Yeah, that's okay. I know that we had a date or that we were supposed to go to the show together, but I'll find something else to do. I understand. That happens. Life goes on. Friendship goes on. Then before you know it, the closer that we get, especially if we're in a couple type or any kind of closely bound relationship. Now, since we're closer, I expect you to stick to what it is we're doing together. I expect you to put me first because you're obligated, because you're my friend and I love you. And we agreed to do this together. Aren't I important? If you don't put me first, then you must not love me. Do you see how it changes? Do you see how it gets complex and difficult? And it really doesn't need to be. Now we have expectation with obligation. If I let them down, they won't think that I love them. And now because you love me and I love you, I expect you to call me every day. I expect you to have dinner with me. I expect you to buy me flowers. I expect you to be nice to my other friends that you don't really like. I expect you to be where I need you to be. I know you have your own thoughts and your own beliefs, but I expect you to take my side and support me and my feelings. I expect you to support the things that I like to do. If there are a lot of yous and I's in your relationship, you might want to see what happened to love. What happened to the love? What happened to, I like hanging out with you because you're fun. You bring out the best in me. Or just because I want to. Is that unconditional love or is that expectation? Sure, we have all done things that we don't want to do. We've gone places we didn't really want to go, but it is different when we're willing to make exceptions because we lovingly want to be there to support. Expectation, exceptions, big difference. The difference is you're doing it because your heart tells you it's the right thing to do. Because I love you. I want to be there for you when you go through this. I love you. I love hanging out with you. I want to go to the show with you. I want to go to the park. I want to buy you flowers because you make me feel so happy inside. I want to give that happiness back to you. That's love. That's a huge difference in feelings. You see the difference between making exceptions than expectations? Doesn't it seem when someone is not expecting it from you that it feels so much better inside? It has more meaning. It makes you happier when it is your own free will. Doesn't it feel better when you receive something from somebody that you weren't expecting? Wow, I know, I've gone through this with my students. It floors you when somebody gives you something out of the blue because you know they're doing it from their heart. My God, it's encased. If you see colors, it's encased in pink, which is the color of love. It does something to you. You carry these feelings with you through your whole life. These are memories you look back on. But all the things that you received because you expected them, they're gone. They're gone. They're meaningless. It's just another day. It's just another simple gift that means nothing. But those gifts that come from the heart, those are gifts that we treasure because they come from the treasure chest of love. When do relationships begin to struggle? It's because somewhere along the way, the pure thought of love has gotten lost. Acceptance with no obligation In the beginning, it was fun just to hang out and be around you. We used to talk about everything. And you see, I did love you before, and I love you the same way now. But now I've added expectation to it. So it's created a heaviness. It's not that light love anymore. It's important in a relationship that you can be together but remain separate. This is what attracted you to each other in the first place. We are all individual. Could you imagine hanging out with somebody that acts exactly like you? Yeah, I don't think that I know. I'm good. It's a balance. We balance each other's personalities because too much of a good thing is not so good. Too much of a bad thing is even worse. So sometimes allowing someone to remain who they are is what you need to be the best you. When you were a child, did you ever ask anyone what love is? Were you ever told, "You'll know it when you see it"? What is that all about? How do you see love? I know I've never seen love. Or how about, "You'll know it when you're in it"? Really? Is it the butterflies? Confusion? Jealousy? Or is it the pain of the broken heart after the fact? Is that how we know? Well, maybe you try to figure it out on your own. Or perhaps you learned what love is from your parents or your friends. And I know personally, for some of us, that's disastrous. Because this is what we were to believe that love is. Love is you go to work and you provide. I don't have to tell you I love you, I'm showing you. Love is I do your laundry, I cook your dinner, and I tuck you in, I buy you clothes. Isn't that enough? So do we grow up with that perception that love is on the surface? You have to change those perceptions if you really want to experience love. Somewhere along the way, you have to be able to discern what love is on an intuitive level. What does intuitive mean? Trust your feelings. Usually your first feeling is the accurate feeling. But then, there's sometimes when you end up meeting someone that you would never ever date in a million years, and they end up being your soulmate. There are exceptions, but you need to pay attention. And maybe it worked out that way because you didn't already place expectations on that person. You didn't expect that person to be your soulmate. You didn't expect to fall in love with that person, and guess what happened? It happened. Or you didn't expect to be best friends with so-and-so because, you don't really think that you'd want to hang out with someone like that. And guess what happens? They end up being your best buddies, and you have so much in common, and you love sharing everything together, and they teach you so much, and you teach them, and it turned out to be that way because you went into it with no expectations. There's nothing complicated about the act of love, but it does become very complicated when one starts to withhold it or is afraid to love. I remember my personal fears about love and their connection with my childhood and abandonment. I always thought, well, if I really fall in love with somebody, what if they leave me? My God, that's going to hurt so bad. So maybe if I just kind of like them and not love them, I'll never be hurt. Or what if I allow myself to fall in love and that person doesn't really love me back? Geez, that's pretty scary, isn't it? Have we all done that at some point in our life? Or am I the only one? I remember thinking, If I allow myself to truly love, am I going to make a fool out of myself? I don't want to be a fool. How do you associate love with being a fool? Well, I'll tell you. I associated all those tear-jerking country songs, we know them, as well as what was on the radio, such as Love is a Battlefield by Pat Benatar, Love Stinks by the J. Giles Band. I mean, this is what's around us every day, and I know that you all know the Carpenters. Remember the Carpenters and all their sad "You Left Me" songs, and oh my goodness. And you know, you listen to it as you're a child. So even what you're seeing isn't what's being implanted, it's what you're hearing. So we grow up with this perception of love being dangerous and scary and afraid to give or receive. Well, I personally had to change my perception about love before I could allow it or embrace it in my life. I'm very fortunate that I have a very patient husband who saw more love in me than I could see in myself. Because he waited for me for 10 years. I met him and I would not date him. He was my best friend. That perception, if I love you and fall in love, you're going to leave. Well, I figured if I have my best friend, a best friend will never leave. But I don't want to really have a relationship and lose that. So he patiently waited for 10 years, would never date anybody else, watched me have mistakes and date others, and he was there to help throw them out. You know, wonderful guy. And then 10 years goes by and I date him. We did everything backwards. So by the time I dated the person whom I'm now married to and love, there were no secrets, no expectations, nothing to hide. He knew the real me, and my God, it worked. I love him, and I'm not afraid. You know, that's there, it's available for everyone, but you have to be able to change your perception and be aware of what it is that gives you negative perceptions about what love is. I still have to be careful and not associate with those socks on the floor mean you don't love me, because that's really stupid. But we get so caught up in life and so caught up in me, I, that we kind of let those little things turn into mountains, which destroy the most important thing in our world, and that's love. Another thing I learned through this process is that when it isn't love, you will know it, and you will remember it, and you will take it with you, and you'll know exactly what you don't want because you've experienced it. The key word, experience. Don't keep making the same mistakes over and over, thinking that it's going to turn out differently this time. Pay attention. Pay attention to what you need in your heart. Pay attention to what you're feeling and what you're allowing someone else to make you feel like. Whether you're in a relationship or just opening yourself up, please remember this. Love takes no hostages. Love makes no bargains, has no expectations, or feels obligated. It is not compromised by fear, and indeed, fear is the opposite of love. Where there is fear, there can be no love. As for those who love themselves enough to be alone, that's perfectly okay. Because it gives that person the opportunity to love and respect themselves fully. So the next time you feel so sorry for your friend Sally because she's all alone and you need to hook her up with somebody, maybe you should just allow her to be responsible for her. Maybe she's getting in tune or he's getting in tune with what's really important at that time, and that's having a relationship and a bond with their own self. Very important. The simple but important words, I love you, They're not always enough to let someone know that you love them. Sometimes mere words are not enough. But if you really love them, they will know it, just as you really know when someone loves you. I feel that if you aren't loved, if you feel that you are not being loved, do some soul searching and find out why. And be honest with yourself. Are you not really loved, or is it that you're not being loved in the way you expect to be? It's that word again. You can't possibly love me because you're not doing enough for me. That's not what love is about. Could it be that you've placed expectations upon an individual or a relationship or the word itself, love? Are you looking for a fable, a myth, a happily ever after, instead of opening yourself up to the feelings? There are nonverbal messages being given to you by people that you're surrounded by every day. They're showing you they love you. They're showing you they love you by a smile, offering you their time, by listening to you. Love is so many things. Pay attention to your relationships, your friendships. They may be what they may be. Be careful to not turn them into expectations, not turn them into obligations, and above all, don't take those who love you for granted. Because they do loving things for you, because they show you love, don't expect that same thing all the time, and if they don't do it, then you think they don't love you. Love is simple, and it really is love when it's in its true form, its natural form, simplicity. The experience of unconditional love begins in your heart, not someone else's. Real love does not change. It exists independently of the form through which it expresses. The source of this eternal, omnipresent, formless love is within you. As I close, I want to leave you with points to remember. Very important when leaving this lecture today, what I want you to remember. You demonstrate love by giving it unconditionally to yourself. As you do, you attract others into your life who are able to love you without conditions. If you attempt to find love outside of yourself, it will always fail. Because you cannot receive from another something you haven't given yourself. You attract others into your life who are doing the same thing. One who loves without conditions places no limits on his freedom nor anyone else's. Love is a gift that must be constantly given, as it is asked for in each situation. And the giver always knows to whom the gifts are to be given. Love, unconditional love. I love you. Have a wonderful day.